This is Dr. Wysong. This series of videos on the big questions of life will show where each one of us is led if we dare to leave behind preconceived ideas and see where reason and evidence lead. Death is a return. We instinctually fear death because mortal survival is programmed into us. It's also an unknown to which some religions have attached the horror of eternal hell. Death is also associated with the pain that may precede it. Unfortunately, the predominant views about death have to do with such fears, as well as religious dogma and wish thinking. Remarkably, death is actually not a mystery, nor does life beyond death have anything to do with belief and faith. Ideas that stand the test of time should be given serious attention. Although not an absolute proof in itself, the idea of immortality is predominant in virtually every culture and has been that way as far back in time as records reveal. However, although people may say they believe in life beyond death, most can't do so with intellectual pride or confidence. Materialistic blinders stand in the way. Proof of real things consists of either empirical evidence, which is experience, observation, events, and other real things that can be tested and verified, or logic. Immortality can be proven by both. As the actor Robert Duvall said in a eulogy at the grave of a fallen cowboy in one of his films, "Birth till death, we travel between the eternities." Please note that although anyone can nitpick by what follows, truth does not depend upon the veracity of any one assertion examined separately, but on the vast improbability of many assertions from a variety of fields agreeing on the same falsehood. Proofs of immortality. Quantum reality. Recall that we are comprised of atoms, but physics shows that atoms are actually nothing in the material sense, but everything in the mind-thought sense. A thought does not have any of the physical constraints of the material world. Mind is timeless, eternal, and without limits in its creative potential. Natural law. E equals mc squared shows that neither energy nor matter can disappear, they just change places. The first law of thermodynamics states that matter and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. These laws, which are fundamental to the entire universe, are metaphors for human immortality. We don't die and disappear, we just change form. Immortal information. Each person's unique volitional essence is comprised of non-material information not found in DNA or RNA. Since information in the quantum world does not disappear, the information that comprises our essence must continue on after the physical body's death. Mind is independent of matter. Einstein wrote in his book, The World as I See It, that the universe reveals an intelligence of such superiority that, compared with it, all the systematic thinking and acting of human beings is an utterly insignificant reflection. If a non-material eternal mind underlies reality, it's not a big step to understand that our intelligent personages preceded physical existence and will survive its end. Otherwise, we must unreasonably and unscientifically conclude that intelligence, consciousness, mind, free will would have had to exist as potential within atoms. Near-death experiences. People who are revived after being clinically dead often report a conscious journey outside the body. By clinical death, I mean the heart is stopped and the brain shows no electrical activity. Many are not only dead, but under anesthesia at the same time. This proves that any reported consciousness is not from the brain. About 1 in 20 Americans claim to have had a NDE. There are NDE accounts throughout history and in many cultures. Religious beliefs and oral traditions are influenced by the NDE phenomenon. Thousands of cases have been scientifically studied. For example, a prospective scientific study in the Lancet Medical Journal in 2001 reported that 62 out of 344 patients who were clinically dead after cardiac arrest had a conscious out-of-body experience. Most of these adults and children describe core events of enhanced consciousness, going through a tunnel and into light, life review, telepathic ability, meeting dead friends and family, a sense of it being more real than physical life, a sense of all-embracing love and acceptance, and feeling like returning to the true home. People blind since birth reported seeing themselves lying in state and described things they have never seen. Follow-up study of survivors over many years revealed transformations including loss of fear of death, increased intuitive senses, rapid healing of injuries, and being more empathetic and less ego-centered. In other reports, children increased I scores dramatically after an NDE. No physical causes such as anoxia, drugs, prior beliefs, resuscitation efforts, or release of endorphins explain the experiences or the transformations. Naysayers, of course, abound. All of them have either a predisposing religious or atheistic bias. To see some of their arguments and NDE rebuttals, Internet search Dr. Jeffrey Long, who is a radiation oncologist, or Dr. Pim Van Lommel, who is a cardiologist. Other evidence includes out-of-body experiences, or OBEs. Some people are able to enter a trance-like state and then travel with a non-material body into other dimensions. Blind people with no light perception can accurately describe what they see in both the physical and non-physical worlds during an OBE. One person described a 5-digit number on a piece of paper that could only have been seen if she were floating in an out-of-body state. In a random survey, 339 out of 420 people claimed to have an OBE. After a heart attack, 26 of 32 patients reported an OBE and gave accurate descriptions of events in the hospital which occurred while they were unconscious. Of all societies studied, 437 of them, 89%, have some tradition of OBEs. Skulls of children have been found with trepanned holes, a practice used to attempt to facilitate OBEs, astral sorties, and mediumship. Aldous Huxley, Goethe, D.H. Lawrence, Strindberg, and Jack London all reported OBE experiences. OBE abilities can be learned, and there are many teachers and opportunities. LSD, ayahuasca, and other DMT and monoamine oxidase inhibitor carriers, ketamine, mescaline, THC cannabinoids, ibogaine, and other synthetic and natural compounds can induce OBEs. People use drugs for OBEs because it's easier, but not safer, than training the mind to do it on its own. Past life regression. Hypnotists and psychiatrists help patients regress to past lives and be cured of emotional problems, not alleviated by any other means. Some people suffer suppressed carryover memories of traumas and relationships from previous lives. Healing results once these events are recalled. Scars and birthmarks have also been explained by such things as gunshots and knife wounds in past lives. Pre-birth memories. Some children, once they learn to speak, describe thoughts of the mother and a memory as far back as conception. Dr. Ian Stevenson holds an endowed professorship at the University of Virginia. He's traveled the world for almost 40 years investigating more than 2,000 cases of children who recall previous lives. His voluminous and scholarly scientific works with photographs and documentation give first-hand accounts of children who, from the time they are first able to speak, beg to be taken home, pine for parents, husbands, and mistresses in a prior life, and know details of another life there is no way for them to have learned in their present life. For example, at 2, little Daniel said he was a 25-year-old mechanic who died in a car crash. He named the mechanic's hometown and the driver of the car. When the family of the mechanic heard of the little boy's claims, they visited him unannounced. The little boy instantly recognized them and named his past life sister. From the time she was a toddler, Susie devoted herself to an elderly man she claimed was her husband in a previous life. Although this caused problems for the man, his wife, and family, they could not deny the private details Susie mysteriously knew about him. When Preeti began to speak, she begged to be taken to her real family. She named her previous mother and father in the distant town where they lived. When she was taken to the home, Preeti immediately named her previous brothers and sisters. A little suburban Virginia boy insisted he owned a farm in a previous life. He described the farm, cows, and shed. Once, while out driving in the car with his family, he cried out that his farm was just around the bend. When they got there, every detail of the farm was just as he had described. Christian, at the age of 2, became obsessed with baseball, insisting on wearing baseball uniforms and sleeping with baseballs. He then told his mom he was Lou Gehrig before becoming her baby. Now, if you go to Kathy Bird, that's BYRD.com, and listen to why she and anyone else exposed to the evidence will conclude that Christian was not making it up. The internet is just replete with documented cases of reincarnation if you search that. Xenoglossy. Some people, including children, have an inexplicable accent, speak foreign languages and even ancient tongues no longer spoken anywhere in the world. They explain that it is the language and culture from when they lived in another place, in another life, in another body. If you go to YouTube and search xenoglossy, you'll find more information on that. You can also go to reincarnationexperiment.org. Ghosts. Apparitions of humans have been witnessed by countless people. At Gettysburg, for example, there are ghost tours where numerous sightings have occurred and voices of the dead have been recorded. You'll see a chart that gives a partial list of professionals from a website called inducedadc.com that use communication with deceased loved ones as a means of healing grief. Unexplained abilities. Henry Ford said, "I believe that we will come back again, and we can utilize the experience we collect in one life in the next. Genius is the fruit of long experience in many lives. Some are older souls than others, and so they know more. Children are thus born with extraordinary skills, such as in math, music, memory, and language, present in a past life. Family dissimilarities. Remarkable differences exist in family members. Although genetically of the same mold, siblings have disparate and distinct personalities and life objectives. Regression to previous lives explains present life individuality. Who we are is not just nature and nurture, it is other as well. We don't change. If you introspect, the inner you is the same no matter how far back you remember. The physical body matures, ages, and returns to dust, following the second law of thermodynamics. The other worldly non-material you remains, following in principle the first law of thermodynamics. Things don't disappear. Dream realities. A dream can be as real as physical life, complete with the material world, living creatures, communication, feelings, and senses, even some extraordinary abilities like flying, my favorite. If in a dream, while the body is dead in sleep, a non-material reality can exist in which you are a part, why couldn't consciousness survive similarly after the body dies? At death we are, as Prospero remarked, such stuff as dreams are made of. After-death communication. To me, this is one of the most compelling proofs of life beyond death. At the point that I had dismissed evolution and man-made religions, discovering the ability of psychics to speak to the dead opened my mind and fit perfectly with what I was learning about quantum physics. In after-death communication, ADC, the dead reveal details that prove they are who they claim to be. For example, a psychic medium speaks to a dead child, and the child tells the medium about a toy hidden in a special place. The parents check and find the toy exactly where described. Thousands of other remarkable examples abound in the literature. Television programs featuring psychics also provide remarkable evidence. In near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, and after-death communication via mediums and psychics, the dead describe that they are alive and fully conscious in another dimension. Induction into a state where ADCs can take place reportedly can occur in 98% of those who try. Consider just one of the many websites that offer lessons in this area, induced-adc.com. Alan Botkin, Doctor of Psychiatry, says we can very rapidly, reliably, and easily induce an ADC. Regardless of age, location, time, or belief system, virtually all who say they have communicated with the dead describe common features about dying and life thereafter. More on this in the parts that follow. Many after-death communications are accurate as to historical detail. People who died in the early 1700s described three-pronged forks. Those who died later in the century described four prongs. Clothing, footwear, and foods described were also consistent with the times. These are only a few examples. A study of past life accounts yields countless others. Yes, there are charlatans in this field, as in all others. They don't invalidate those who actually do communicate with the dead. Logic. The inner us, the moral, questioning, creative, volitional part, fits best with the idea that we are non-material creatures who occupy biological bodies in order to develop the ethical character that comes with choice. It makes more sense that a lifetime's worth of learning from trying to obey conscience, an inherent drive we have as humans, is retained rather than to have it all vanish at the moment of death. If you send your television set to the junkyard and it's smashed to smithereens, the broadcast transmissions it used to receive don't cease to exist. Similarly, our conscious essence, a non-material waveform energy consciousness, would not cease to exist just because the brain body of the tuner was junked or died. It would seem that if previous lives are to learn from, then we should be able to recall them. However, we may have had many, even hundreds of such lives. Carrying those memories would make this life impossible. We could be terrified by some memories, regretful of our missteps, or heartsick missing those we have loved. The important memories, the ones that can forge us into better people, may not be vividly in mind but are embedded within conscience to help guide our lives. Now, all the above evidence in this chapter and the logic, combined with the previous chapters outlining the non-material, holistic, and timeless nature of reality, and the eternal mind underlying the universe, points to one inevitable conclusion. Death is a change rather than an end, a comma, not a period in our life story.
Thank you for listening. Keep in mind that solving the big questions requires foundations upon which truthful answers can be built. So please work through the series sequentially. This information has taken decades of research, thought, and writing. Aside from the peace of mind the solutions have brought me, the only reward I seek is hearing that it's helped you. Feel free to contact me with any comments or questions at asifThinkingMatters.com.